Hey guys, welcome back, and in this lecture what we are going to see is routing in React. And for any application it is very important to have routing correctly done, especially the top navigation, probably the links that you see on the page, and of course any redirects that you might have. Now all this definitely makes any platform very strong. So React by default doesn't supply any of these. Like React is mostly a Vue library, so it doesn't supply any of these. But there are external npm libraries that you can use that work with React very well. And with React you can just use it, just the syntax, just like the way the syntax of React is. You can use those libraries in your code and you can make things work. So in this lecture what we are going to do is we are going to use one of those libraries and see React routing in action. Now the reason we have it very simple, because again you start simple but you can actually extend this to any type of component that you want to. So let me quickly show you. So whenever you get the home page, you will have four options. You can go to about, contact, or a blog. When you go to blog, you can have multiple blogs, like multiple posts that are there. So when you click on a post, it should take you to that particular post. Again, you can go back, you can go to the second post, and of course you can have interlinking between these posts if you want to. So what we will see is we'll see this implementation. When you click anything, or probably when you don't have anything, you have the root element where you just come to your app, what element gets displayed, how it gets displayed, how routing works, etc. Now, before when we get to the coding, let me just tell you a little bit about the React router. So this is the router that we are going to use for our React application, where we will try to use the React router and see how you can do routing using all of the features. Now, again, this has a very good GitHub repository. It has a lot of stars. If you can see up out here, there are more than 20,000 people following it, 4,600 different implementations where people have changed things. And of course, many people are watching it too. So it is a very popular library on the GitHub too. Now they have a lot of documentation. Of course, we will not go through all of these, but I would request you to please go through these and ask me any questions if you have, because it is very important to even understand React router. Of course, we will cover as much as possible, but it is not covered. It is not possible to cover the entire library altogether. So make sure you go through all these links. Of course, when you go to the first tutorial, you'll see that a very step-by-step tutorial has been explained. Of course, a different criteria or a parameter might be there, but you should do that. Now that being said, the way you can install React router is very easy. All you have to do is npm install save React router. What save will do, it will put it in your package.json and it'll install React router. Now going forward, it's just an example that we will see. So let me quickly go and switch my workspace to a new one. So let's go here. Let me close the reference because I just created that to show it to you. Now that I am in the React folder, let's do a reset. Let's do a cd start. So now that we are in the start folder, actually we should be in the end folder. So let's do cd cd end. Now cd hello world. Again, the same example that we always do. That's the same example when you do the cd. When you go into the start folder and you turn your server on, you will see a pretty much same example that we have, which is the whole React background that you always see, and the React router. So that's how we start. That's how we will start. Of course, we will clean up. We'll remove everything so that we can make it work for routing. Okay. Now the next thing that we have to do is install router. So let me just close the server, or you can open a new tab. What I usually prefer, open a new tab. Once you have a new tab or a new command window, if you're using Windows, and then you can just install the same thing, which is install, actually it is npm install hyphen save React router. Okay, let's do that so that the React router gets installed and saved in our package.json. So let me just show you what that looks like. So you have the end folder, you have the package.json, and it should get updated with the React router. Okay, so that anyone who's using this library or this package or this repository of yours, they can play with it. Now that being said, let's go back to our start library, which is already started. Let's close the package.json and we have the app. Now let's go and view the app. So now we have the app open and we can start cleaning up our div, which means let's start first of all giving a bullet point in here. So let's remove everything out here, header, content, just have this div. Let's remove these components. So in the app, all we should see is a UL tag. a UL tag. Now let's try to add some li. And let's write the content. Let's say home, about, contact, and about, contact, and blog. Of course, we need to make sure that this displays. So let's refresh the page, and you can see the 4 components got displayed. This was very easy. So far we have a clean slate, we have nothing shown out here. So I just want to make sure that you understand this. Now once you have installed the React router, the way you can use the React router is, if you can see the example also, it's just like importing it from the React router. So we'll copy this same line exactly, because even if I want to write, I'll write the same thing. So let's just copy this all together and let's put it in our index.js. So if you go to index.js, just put this out here. Now you have everything imported, nothing should be a problem. The system should be the same. If you see the console, it should give you warnings saying that you have installed all these router link, browser history, but you have never used it. That's all. So that should be the only problem that you see as unused variables. Now the way you use React router is, instead of passing in the app, what you do is you pass in the router. So let's say I pass in the router, and let's save this. Once I save this, all of this should go away. You can see it's all a blank slate. So to expand this, what I will do is I will split the router, and then we can just give a history or a browser history that we just used here. So you can just say history is equal to, again, this is a React component, so you can pass everything as browser history. Let's save it. Again, nothing should happen on the screen, everything should be the same. And as you can see in the example, the way you can use the React router is using the route. So you can see when you give route history, browser history, you can use by using a route path. Now let's say we use the same route out here. Again, this is nothing but for every route in your system or in the application, or the routing that you're doing, it will have a route and a path. So by default, your application is always on the /, which means if you see here, there's nothing beyond your domain, or probably localhost, whatever you see, there's nothing beyond it. So that's the default path, and that should open the app. Now let's just save this and let's see what happens on the screen. Now you can start seeing the app. Of course, these are not links anymore, but you can see that app is already there. Now anything that you have under the app, which means like a child, because every link in your application will actually be under the root folder. So in that case, you will have root inside the root. So now all your other roots will have to be inside. Let me just paste it. I have the copied, and let's say we have home, and let's say the path is home. Similarly, let's also close it. Let's have this copied, and let's say we have 3, which is about, contact, blog, and blog. Let's save this. Nothing should happen yet on the screen, and you can see these are not defined because you are using them, but you don't have it defined. So let's do one thing. Let's just quickly create the component. Let's just do right click, new file, and say import. Let's first save it. So let's save it as home.js. Let's close this. Let's write import react component from React class home extends component, and then here we should have a render method. Inside the render method we should have a return. Inside the return, what we can do is we can have an h2 tag, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, let's do h2 tag, and let's say home, so that it's easier and we know what that is. And then you do an export default home. Let's save this file, let's copy this, and let's create another file. So let's close home, let's do this, let's open here, and let's create contact. And then again, because I'm using Sublime Text, I can just do a multi-select and update everything to contact, and then save it as contact.js. Now that I have contact, I can go again and open another file, which is new file, and here I can do a blog. So again, I can do a multi-select and do a blog and save it as blog.js. I will revisit this because I need to have child components, but for now that should be good enough. Let's go here. Just like we imported our app, let's import all the other classes, which is home, about, and contact and blog. So let's say I have home. I know you might be yelling, why did I type in one more time or paste it one more time? My bad too, I'm very bad at numbers. Let's do home, about, contact, and the last one is blog. Okay, and let me just delete this extra paste. Now this should refresh the page and everything should be fine except what it says. About cannot be found because I did not create about yet. Okay, I did not create about, I just created all these. So let's just quickly create about.js too. So Control V. Let's copy this and say about, save it, about.js. Now that this is created, it should get updated. Fantastic. Only the validations. Now, the way I can test whatever I have created is working or no, I can just go to the address bar and type in home, which is the same as the path that you see on the screen out here, which is this one. If I just type home, it should get me the home template. If I do contact, it will not work. Nothing will show up, although the paths will work. Like if I do any gibberish out here instead of something like that, it will give me an exception. It will just give me a blank page, which means the path is not registered yet. But if I do anything else, which is a registered path, it will not show any content. The reason it is not showing any more content out here, if you can see, the way I'm passing the router is in the root, and then you have router, and then you have routes as path, and you pass in as a component, which means these are children to the router. Now whenever you go to a path and whenever you display something which is in the app, like the first component you see is app, so everything else is children. Now what you do is, the way you render a children is, you go here onto the app.js, just like you do at this .props, where you display the properties and you have a specific property. Instead of property, what you will do is, as these are children, you will say this.props.children. What this will do is, this will render anything which is a child of it. So if you can see, the screen refreshes and you can start seeing about, which is coming from the about JS out here. Now if I can just do a ... save it, it should start displaying ... out here. You can see that, so it's coming from the about file. Now that being said, everything else should also start working. If you do a home, it will work. If you do a contact, it will work. If you do a blog, it will also work. You see that? However, these are no longer a link yet. So how can you make them a link? Well, you can use this link. So we don't need the link out here. Let's copy the whole line and then we'll delete it. So let's just copy this. Let's just delete this. And now let's go to the app.js, where we will try to make it a link. So let's remove everything else. We don't need everything except the link. So all you will import from React Router is a link. So the way you can have it is, you can, just like your anchor tag, you can just say link, and then here instead of path, just the way you had a path in your index.js, we have something called as to, which means the path is already defined. Now you need to go to a path, and the way you will say is /home. Once you do that, you can close it like an anchor tag, which means the way we give our hrefs, you can give this to it. Now let's just wait for the page to refresh, and this should start appearing as a link, and when you click it, it should take you to home. Similarly, you can convert everything below it also to a link. Let's also copy and paste this so that we have the closings too. Let's change the path to about, to contact, to blog. Let's save this. Let's refresh the page. And all of these should be links. You can click any of them and they should get you the content. Easy, right? So far all we have done is, in our index.js, instead of rendering our app component, we rendered the router. And when we entered the router, we told them router that the default path is the app component. And once you display the app component, if you need to display anything below it, like if you have an application, you usually see a top menu bar. So you see the top menu bar, that will be a part of the app.js, and the rest of the content will be in the body below it. Now, when you have React home, about, contact, and blog, all that can be very easily coded. Once you have the path coded out here, that means the React router is registered and it will take you to that page, and it will by default display the app.component or whatever the app.js is. Now, if you need to display anything else, you need to make sure that the component which is specified in the route, which is home, about, contact, or even blog, displayed as this.props.children, which was very easy. And again, to make it a link, all you had to do was add the link property.